Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here once again to do another One Piece chapter review. Chapter 1152, which is titled A Horrible Day. This chapter basically follows up the aftermath in which you continue to see the demon-possessed Doggy and Broggy running amok as demon giants while we finally cut back to the Monster Trio and how they respond to all the events by letting Scopogaban is a member of the Pirate King's crew, the fact that the God's Knight's invading, and then also sensing Emu's Haki with the Straw Hats and the new Giant Warrior Pirates ready to face the enemy, with Loki also excited to possibly get a chance to join in. So yeah, I'll admit I'm a bit late on this review. I wanted to try and do this as soon as possible. I even did try to do one yesterday, but I wasn't quite happy with what I put, and I was also getting a bit tired, so I'm going to try and do this review and hopefully a much better result. But before that, we've got the cover story of Yamato, Ogre Child, Yamato's Golden Harvest Circuit Pilgrimage, Volume 36. Otama's Amagishi hat delivered to Karamatsu, the daimyo in Hakuma, in which we see that Karamatsu has become the daimyo of like this Hakumo. I can't recall if this was one of the areas that was in where the ports were gathering. It's been a while since I've read Ronos, but it's still following up from like the last bit where I think Yamato took on that sumo, and you see, of course, let's see, Page One and Uti being subordinates. But it's interesting how Uti's trying to be seems to be trying to start a conversation with Karamatsu, but I think Page One is trying to tell her not to, arguably because let's see, it was only just a while ago that they were like enemies and all that stuff. But here they are. Yamato is just glad that I think Karamatsu enjoys the hat that Tama made, so it's nice little sort of thing. And if I recall, Karamatsu is definitely the member of the Scabbards that would sort of wear that hat, if you will. So yeah, he's got a brand new one, so he must be happy. Anyway, now that covered, it's time to get on to the actual chapter summary, in which hold on, let me just find it. I'm spoiling so many things with these images. The chapter basically begins with the new giant warrior pirates, where mostly Road, Stisson, and I believe Goldberg heading up. Let's see, to the surface on this lift, where Gerd's been left behind to like heal Loki. Chopper has also agreed to stay behind to like heal Mr. Yarl and all that stuff. And this is where Scopogaban tells Luffy that the weakness to the God's Knights is the color of the Supreme Haki, so use that as a mortal, really, if you can use that, with Luffy thanking him for that idea, for like the advice, as he vows to try and save Cole and everyone else. And this is where you get Loki here, asking that let's see, Gaban's helped him realize what's going on with these God's Knights and realize what they are, and that he wasn't able to, use his own power beforehand, but now, he's able to identify. He tries to persuade that he is experienced in fighting these holy knights that can be stopped, and asks Hajuden to undo the cuffs, but of course Hajuden is absolutely refusing, Hajuden is absolutely refusing to undo those cuffs. Gaban then points out that there's someone else amongst the Straw Hats that have it, in which the Supreme King, which Sanji get excited, thinking, wait, is it me? Thinking, yes, finally, I knew I had potential, and being a bit insecure about the fact that Zoro and Jinbei have been catching up ahead of him and being advanced in the bounties, even though Jinbei doesn't really seem to really care that much, and Zoro is the one that just mocks it, but Gaban points out it's basically Zoro, and Zoro's surprised that he actually has it, but Luffy is shocked because Zoro has been pouring it out, so confirmation that he did not know. And then, let's see, this is where Zoro gets scolded by Scopogaban by being like, saying you're one of the, one of the elite officer pirates of like, of a Yonko, and you're not, able to master it. You should, because you're like let's see, if you want to help your captain, which he ends up apologizing for. And this is where you get this sort of let me just see a funny scene where Sanji ends up saying, wait, what about me? Can't I have Conqueror's Haki? Let's see, don't I have it? And but whatever Gaban told him was basically interrupted by Loki demanding that Hadrudin save him, let him out because it's pathetic having to have outsiders. Let's see, rescue Elbaf when he is right here, but Hadrudin is basically saying, nope, I will not allow it, because you basically we would likely just betray Elbaf and side with the world government, not realizing they already refused the government's offer to become a holy knight before, and that accused him of betraying them already once. And you get the let's see, Stussen telling Hadrudin to hurry up, but Luffy ends up getting the idea of telling Loki to join his crew, if you will. So, which surprises not only him, but basically everyone else, if you will. Let's see, and particularly Hadrudin, and also and Sanji, where they come into agreement saying that Luffy, he can't join, he's too big for the ship, or he eats more than you and all that stuff. Luffy tries to say that sounds like Elba doesn't want him, so I think it'd be fun to have him. Let's see, have him around, but if he's going to be a problem, he'll whip him himself. And of course, this is where Loki basically just says to Luffy, are you out of your mind? I would never become your subordinate. Hadrudin asks Luffy if this is basically what his instincts is telling him, with Luffy saying, yeah, I want to see him fight. The new giant part is still getting a bit impatient, but let's see, he says he's coming now, but about to leave with Luffy, telling Luffy that, sorry, but let's see, Loki's condemned to death, you can't really have him, which he goes that's a shame. And much to everyone's surprise, Scopper Gaban tells Hadrudin here that to just undo Loki's chains, and this is where you get, let's see, Hadrudin, who starts, saying, why would you say this, Yar, given how Loki killed 113 soldiers in the castle 14 years ago? Stabbed Chief Jarl in the head, slaughtered his own father, and most crimes of historic scale in terms of Elbaf, as you get his crew listening in. And we get a sort of, wrong image. Gaban revealing that he knows all this stuff, but he reveals that he actually felt something that day, an extreme abnormal hockey from the castle, which he and Shanks investigated. Shocking Hadrudin that they were there, and Luffy was also shocked that Shanks was there. And Hadrudin decides that he'll go. He tells the giant pirates to go on ahead, and Luffy tells Zoro and Sanji to do so as well. And at this point, you get Zoro calling Luffy a Shanks obsessed fool. He thinks that's an insult to Shanks, but Sanji's pointing out, no, we're calling you a fool, you idiot. Anyway, Gaban ends telling Loki to tell Hadrudin the story, since you are brothers. But Hadrudin is basically giving him only 3 minutes to tell him what exactly happened. But Loki, what happened that day, and to swear on his warrior's pride. Loki goes that's a very cruel demand from his brother, talking about how you want me to really relieve that day, as you see Gerd and Luffy listening in while the Zoro, Sanji, and the new giant pirates are escaping, as well as Gaban and Chopper also listening. Loki talks about how he would rather not remember that horrible day. As we get a flashback of him arriving at Elbaf 14 years ago, where you've got a couple of the guards and men of the castle just going Loki, but trying to correct themselves. It's Prince Loki and also you've got like the name of the castle, Oris Castle, and also one of the guards saying that Chief Jarl is here as well, as Loki goes like, oh, he's summoned. Jarl goes like, you were summoned as well, Loki, with Loki pointing out, well, we are family. And let's see, he asks Jarl, he's looking good for like some man as old as him, wondering if he's tired of living, mocking him, with Jarl telling him to shut his mouth. With the giant guards, as you can see here, telling him that Loki is in the let's see, in the throne, the king's in the throne room, but let's see, Loki wonders what his father wants him about, since he's not really interested in his father ever since apparently he sold out to the world government, the people at Betsy killed the Rocks pirates, so he's not happy about that, and let's see, will pose probably the direction Elbaf is going in if Elbaf is going in the direction he disagrees with, which arguably probably the words that leave him in a bit of a liability situation down the line. You got Jarl telling him to lower his tone, as he's an old man now, doesn't want to leave this politics for like old timers like him. But Loki ends up complaining at that, complaining that this sort of attitude is why most children are now peace addicted these days, not swinging a weapon. And you get Jarl just talking about how we live in an age in peace, and his granddaughter's granddaughter doesn't fight, talking about how she's adorable. I think he's, of course, referring to like his granddaughter, which I believe, let's see, the character's name is Yalva. So, yeah, he's talking about that. I assume that she's probably just more or less been just around the time born. Let's see, as I think you got like a young Colin also in this flashback. So, let's see, but Loki just calls him a soft old dullard, saying that she's trained up to learn some discipline, if you will. Wondering what going on with the ruckus going on, and it's someone says it's coming from the throne room, and you get, let's see, the guards thanking Chief Jarl for coming, but going like Loki before correcting to like Prince Loki, with Loki saying he heard that, with them saying, let me just check with the king. But Loki said, he's summoned here, this is my home. So he kicks them and saying, just open the damn door, you clowns. And they try to plead him not to stop the violence, with Loki saying, hey, Dad, hey, Pa, I'm back, only for basically, only to find a dark silhouette, Hallowed, being stabbed by many of the palace's guards, which shocks Jarl crying out Harold's name, and Loki going like, what's going on here? As then we cut to, I believe, as we cut to a younger Shanks and Gaban, let's see, enjoying a bath at hot spring at Gaban's house, where they at first talking about how this place is great. Let's see, with Gaban calling how when's the last time they shared a bath together, thinking like, is it 3 or 4 years? But Shanks points out it's been 10 years since Roger died and all that stuff, with him going like, has it really been that long? Thinking that must feel like an eternity for you then. And Shanks revealed that, so you also got to see, as you can see, a tattoo on his arm here, that he thinks that like his life really changed, saying his plans were to join up with Buggy and lead a laid-back pirating life, but of course that didn't happen because Buggy thought Shanks had betrayed Roger in a sense. And it's a but let's see, he's even here in Elbaf learning much more. Gaban, let's see, revealing to Shanks that apparently he's a child of fate, and don't, let's see, bother thinking over the tricky little details. Talking if he remembers the little garden where they met Doggy and Brocky, with Shanks going, of course. And this is where Ripley is coming out of like a window. Shanks them saying, how does it feel, Mr. Yar? And calling Shanks Shanksy. He's a bit spooked, but then gets surprised by the nickname. Let's see, with Gaban just saying that the hot spring feels great. Revealing that she likes when she can wears Gaban revealing that she likes it when she can see him eye level and all that stuff. And Shanks finds it like interesting. So this is how a design of a family of like humans and giants would live. With her offering a bunch of like something called an ungaberry tart for them and asking if they would like a piece. And she ends up asking Shanks if he knows any stories about Mr. Yar, and Shanks, in the most Luffy-like eating, if you will, ends up going about how Gaban was very carefree, going like every single port to have a different female partner. But before he could finish that sentence, Gaban grabs his cheek, saying, "You punk, do you want to leave this island alive, if you know?" And this is where they start talking about, so how much you know about King Harold being a god, worshipped like a god with these people. And Shanks reveals that he actually met Harold in Marijua, and they got along pretty well. But he talks about how there is something they couldn't really talk about in the Holy Land. So he's saying if he comes back home, he'd like to meet and discuss him before it's too late. But as we can tell, given from, basically this incident, let's see, the narration goes like, unfortunately, a tragic day. Elbaf's beloved king had perished. And then Shanks and Gaban apparently sense the hockey. You got guards pleading to escape but being slaughtered. Then you see Zhao being stabbed. And then you see the giant Elbaf's treasure being locked in a chest. Turns out not eaten by, Harold, but some mysterious figure has eaten it. And let's see. As this is the devil fruit that Loki would eventually eat and apparently and allegedly stole. As the narration goes, like, why would the king of Elbaf be viewed this way? What made him so beloved? Well, it's revealed in a bit of a backstory here, where apparently for a time the most feared group 109 years ago for pirates was none other than, of course, the giant. The giant pirates, as they were Namasu, were feared as the most feared crew in the seas. As you see, a younger Doggy and Broggy with their crew, with like Omi and Kashi, as saying the most wildly feared figures of the day. But he also had like the royal ships sailing from the land, which of course it's King Harold's. Let's see, the fear is also spread because, well, he is also causing a bit of terror, and he's looking for like the princess that's apparently pretty in this country. A giant pops up their head. Let's see, spooking the civilians. As the narration goes, the major reason for that, of course, was Harold, as he kicks his guard, saying he slipped his foot. We've got a lot of his men trying to say, please don't do that, as you've got the narration of King of the Warland of Elbaf, Harold, laughing as he kicks a giant into the building, stomping it. As the narration goes, like, it was that King Harold who was ascend the throne at just 45 years old, which is apparently 15, so he's a teenager for many years. And apparently he was a low-life scum, as he's laughing about who's your god now. Ending the chapter, so, yeah. Anyway, that's the chapter end. So now I suppose I should, like, I guess you could say, give my thoughts. So let's see where to begin. I do like how, like, the majority of the giant pirates are ready to go and save, like, the fellow Elbaf citizens, while Gerd, of course, being the medic, is staying behind because, well, she needs to still treat Loki from his wounds, and Chopper is also staying behind. Now, granted, I'm hoping this means that Chopper will not be left out of the sidelines in the long term, but at the moment, just making sure Gaban's fine, but hopefully Chopper will get more to do later down the line. I mean, that's the perfect opportunity to do this with him when you've got, like, basically the the Jarl saw the sword in his helmet, and it seems like that would be a good opportunity for Chopper to do some medical feats to try and remove Jarl so he can remember everything that happened and then confirm arguably Loki's now story that he's about to tell. So yeah. I'm at least hoping with that is kept intact. But anyway, what else do I like? I do like how Ritzy Gaban, Ritzy tells everyone that, okay, Conquerors Hockey, that's the way to do it, which does make me wonder if that means that Sanji were... Okay, well, I'll get to Sanji a bit. So that does confirm, granted, I do not some theorize there might be some sort of new permanent hockey ability, but it seems like it might be some form of Conquerors Hockey. Well, granted, there's probably more technique to it, but yeah. But Luffy, of course, is willing to go. Loki, of course, is also willing to go, as he now probably, as we'd learn, he actually has experience in fighting the Gods Knights before, at the very least. So I'll be interesting to see if, at least that's how I seem to have read it. So if he does end up in this flashback fighting some Gods Knights, it'll be interesting to see how he does and all that. See if we'll meet any new Gods Knights, but yeah. I do like, of course, how Hadruden's like, let's see, with like his past with Loki saying, no, I'm not letting you out. I do not trust you. All that stuff. But yeah. Anyway, I'll definitely say it was really hilarious to see Sora and Sanji. Let's see, the whole Sora and Sanji thing with like Sanji asking for hockey. Does he have Conquerors Hockey? Thinking doesn't want to be left behind by Zoro and Jinbei anymore, and thinking his potential, of course, but only get the cold reality that he's not been told. So I'm not sure if this means that Sanji does not have Conquerors Hockey, but frankly, if immortality is a way to like fight immortality, the Conquerors Hockey is a way to fight against it. Who knows? That might mean that he may get some form of it, but maybe not on the level of Sora and Luffy. But who knows? I mean, another alternative could be like the gem of science that's in his body could leave him to like getting a power that's just as similar that allow him to keep up with like Conquerors Hockey, at least in terms of taking down these Gods Knights. So who knows? But I do like how Zoro's also being accused because, well, I think it's all pretty obvious that Zoro had no idea that he was using Conquerors Hockey, but granted, I think this chapter basically downright confirmed it, and he's getting chastised for not doing it because it's like, if you're going to be like the right hand of a Yonko, you better learn to master this power, which arguably probably Zoro does need if he wants to end up fighting Hawkeye, because he barely want to fight against Rob Lucci. So yeah, he needs to improve massively and all that stuff. So but then again, Luffy increased massively in Wano, so it is possible. So yeah. Anyway, arguably, which is going to be the most controversial aspect, is the fact that Luffy has basically asked Loki to join his crew. He thinks he's a good guy, and we know he's a good judge of character, which even Hadruden seems to notice. But yeah, I do love how let's see, Sora and Sanji were the few who, they tend to argue and fight all the time, in total agreement for once, and saying, Luffy, this is an insane idea, pointing out, of course, the size thing, which, if he does join a crew, that could probably be solved if Frankie upgrades to Sunny into some sort of like Pluton weapon, as I think some are theorizing. So, yeah. Well, granted, the whole food thing with Sanji is probably correct, with Loki eating more. But of course, Loki, being the prideful warrior he is, refuses to become anyone's underling. The only one, of course, that he would ever, of course, done that for was, well, Rox, but Rox didn't want him as he was too young at the time. But if he was older, he probably would have joined. But Luffy, of course, isn't his idol, so he's like, yeah, no, I'm not joining your crew, if you will. Granted, I don't know if that necessarily means that he will or not, but that is basically what is starting to happen. Luffy's taking a liking, thinks that he can be fun to have around, but he can always whip him if he steps out of line. But of course, I do like how Hadruden points out you can't really make that call, Luffy, even if you like, even if Elbaf doesn't want him, he is on a death sentence. So yeah. But anyway, what comes next is a little bit of a nitpick, really, or maybe a criticism, is that Turns out Gaban actually suspected something was going on with in the castle when he sensed that unfamiliar hockey, but it doesn't seem like he told anyone. I wonder why does that. Let's see, him or Shanks have had to. No, granted, I do feel that this is an explanation that needs to be sort of like dressed, if you will, by Scupper Gaban here. Because it's like, okay, did you end up telling anyone that you had your suspicions about this mysterious hockey? Or did no one believe you? Or is that Loki look so guilty that everyone just assumed it was him? But I don't know, I think this definitely needs a bit more clear up at the very least. So, yeah. But, where was I? Oh, yeah. But I do like how the very least Gaban seems to be the one that gets Adjutant to like at least consider what he has to say, which of course is still like a harsh 3 minutes, but still. And I do like how Loki says, "Oh, you really want me to live that horrible day?" Which does show that no, he did indeed enjoy his father and all that stuff. But even though, as you can see in the flashback, that he doesn't really like how his peace with his father's making the kingdom be. Even clashing heads with Jarl over the granddaughter's granddaughter, Yavel, I think it was. So they're sort of like he's sort of like complaining about, but Jarl is just happy for peace and saying, "Not get me involved in your politics, Loki." Granted, I definitely think that Loki's words about opposing the current king, then if they had sided with the world government, if you will, who killed Rox, is definitely the best alibi against him, saying Loki killed the king. He said so himself with a blah blah blah. So honestly, he's probably not making himself do any favors with that little conversation. But I do like how we get to see that Loki's just as tall as Chief Jarl. So yeah, they are bigger than most giants. So yeah. Now, I do like the little nod detail that guards who seem to be terrified of Loki just call him Loki first before correcting himself with Prince Loki. That was funny, especially when Loki ends up smashing the door to try and see his father and all that stuff. But yeah. But anyway, I think it's at this point pretty obvious that neither Loki is a bad guy nor Howard's a bad guy after this chapter. And given what we just saw what Emu could do last few chapters, he's able to possess and turn people into demons, and it seems he's managed to do the same with King Harold and all that, so which shocks everyone there that witnesses. So the tragedy is probably he's been he probably defied the world government or something, got turned into a demon, started killing his own men, and only for like to be stopped when Loki and Jarl arrived just in time. But one can't remember the exact details, and as a result, let's see, as a result that as a result, Loki is deemed as like a criminal. So yeah. Anyway, let's see. Where was I? So yeah. Anyway, let's see. So yeah, basically Loki was probably forced to kill his father, forced to take the devil fruit, and as a result is deemed a criminal. So we've got that. So but yeah, the most interesting thing let's see. Another interesting thing is the fact that Shanks has apparently visited Marie-Joie a few years back, but of course that's him turning. Of course he turned it down. All that stuff, but he seems to have a bit of a tattoo marking there, which some wondering is that a God's Knight symbol, and which led to some theorizing that this is why he let the arm of the Sea King bite him, Lord of the Coast, because he want to get rid of that mark. But I don't think Shanks would be that kind of person, to be honest, and I think that would be a major criticism, because I think that misses the whole point of Shanks and Luffy's rescue, and see the Shanks rescue of Luffy there, But yeah, I do like how Gaban has lost track of how many years it's been, but Shanks still remembers. I do like how we've learned that, he wanted a carefree life with Buggy, but Buggy, of course, turned him down. But the biggest interesting thing is the fact that Shanks is apparently a child of fate, so that seems to imply that he might have a bigger role than just facing Blackbeard before losing, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see in regards to that part. So, but at the very least, he's been to the Holy Land, met Harold once. Couldn't really speak because where they were, but who knows? It could be likely that they were both about to do some sort of formal alliance before Emu showed up and ruined everything. But yeah. Other than that, I do like learning a bit about a household between a regular human and a wife, where a human and a giant, where the giant will try to get a window of contact, if you will, eye contact as much as possible. And then, where was I? Oh, yeah. Let's see. I look as much as possible. So, yeah, to try and make the relationship work. I do like how Ripley is just like looking at a young Colin and asking, what was Mr. Yarl like in the past? And I do like how Shanks is basically probably his most Luffy-like ever, the way he's eating and then being pinched and all that. About bringing up Yarl's secrets of all the other women he's had in his life, thinking that my wife does not need to hear this. So he's like, no, you're not to tell anyone, of course. But yeah, I do like also how we gotten glimpses of like the events that transpired as giving us a bit of a teaser of what's to come with like the guards being killed, people sensing the hockey, and of course King Howard's death, and eventually the whatever devil fruit that Loki stole that is being taken place. So yeah. Let's see, as we end up learning that, but also I think the biggest surprise to me is the fact that we end up learning a bit about how King Harold was basically not necessarily the nicest king at first. So arguably he was probably due to being a teenager, which we learned that, okay, every 3 years is now like 1 year for giants. So that's cleared up a few things. But yeah, we got that. But also, what was I? Oh, yeah. We also learned that, of course, that during the area of Dorian Broggy, they were probably the most feared pirate crew, which not necessarily means they're a threat to the world government, but they were definitely the crew that everyone feared back then, but they were alongside Harold causing ruckus, but that could be like, I might be getting ahead of myself there. But we end up seeing just how nasty Harold was being a teenager that's just the point of the throne. Now, granted, it was arguably not Joffrey levels, but he was arguably quite destructive, kicking his own guards into a castle. Everyone calls him like the biggest scum in the world. It is interesting to see this sort of character shift from this to whatever happens in the next chapter, which I do think that he's going to become a bit softer. I don't think, let's see, going to be like going all out evil, if you will. And of course, I might be getting mixed up with Sasuke and One Piece, but yeah. It is interesting just to see what happens when a teenager takes over and has no sort of moral compass, and he has to find that moral compass. Otherwise, it would never been like the role model for Shanks to then be a role model for Luffy. So, yeah. But I do like how you see some of the kingdom. Let's see, but you see like the kingdom being destroyed by Harold's foot. In many ways, it would see sort of reminiscences of like Harold being very similar to Loki, as Loki did that with the door, but with like regular giant gods. So yeah. Overall, that's basically the end of the chapter. I probably have to give it a 8 out of 10. I can't necessarily, let's see. Besides, I think Gaban not, telling anyone. And oh yeah, one other thing is the fact that apparently Loki doesn't seem to have told Hadrudan or anyone else the truth, or at least I assume that is, of what really happened to the Uchiha clan. But it could be that Loki tried to explain, but no one was hearing it, and then he just gave up. But if he told no one at all, I think like, okay, some sort of warrior's pride thing. This sounds ridiculous. You should probably tell everyone the truth, especially if that means Elbaf could be in danger in the long run. So, yeah. I do think that was a bit of a criticism there. But other than that, I love the Daya, and I guess maybe I love the dynamic of Sora and Sanji this week, where Sora was completely clueless about having Conqueror's Haki. Sanji demanding to know, does he have it? We'll have to wait and see if Oda's going to do that, or find some alternative to get Sanji to be on Zoro and Luffy's level. So who knows? I do like how let's see, you got Luffy shocking everyone by telling Loki to join the crew, but of course I think the fandom is 50-50 on it. I don't think Loki is going to join the crew, but I think he's more tied to Elbaf and whatever. I think his devil fruit's likely to be stolen by Blackbeard. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that unfolds. But yeah, but other than that, we also end up learning that King Howard was basically, of course, not the nicest person. So yeah, there's everything from like what I liked and disliked, or maybe have some concerns about. So yeah, overall, I'd probably give this, like I said, a chapter 8 out of 10. I think it's a very decent One Piece chapter. I think it's setting up what arguably might be one of the most tragic backstories in One Piece, of like a father and the son, where the father tried to make a more peaceful world, but then gets slain by those who rule it. And Loki, wanting to destroy the world, ends up having to destroy his father and reputation and be portrayed as a bad guy. So yeah, I like the contrasts there. Other than that, I do think it might have been a missed opportunity to have Taka and go heavy against Team 7, but that could be done for another thing. But yeah, overall, yeah, that's all I have to say about the chapter. I hope those who end up listening to what I have to say enjoyed what I had to say. And I look forward to seeing you all again next time as we discuss the next chapter of One Piece, though I'll have to make sure I find the time for that first. But for now, I am Blue Star Saber, ready to sign off. Thank you for having me. I hope you all enjoyed what I had to say. And goodbye for now, and I will see you next time.